Well, and this slides into the next thing that I think would be a good clip is how education is funded.
So what about the school funding? Where do most of these schools get their funding besides what I just mentioned with, increasing tuition for like football stadiums and stuff like that?
Sure. So it's separated out into, I guess, private funding, public funding, public school funding, more primary schools before college, and then the universities, and those are a totally different animal. Private funding, I think, works fine. It's kind of a shame, maybe, arguably, that people have to pay private tuition on top of what they're already being taxed for public schools. But people would argue, well, those are the people who are more well off anyway.
Well, public schools, let's say grade school through
high school.
Yeah. Is that all taxes? Is that some money from the state and then pretty much local property taxes or increases? Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, I would say it's mostly funded through property taxes.
And do they get any private, maybe like once in a while, donation or something, or is that go?
They might get grants. They actually do, okay. And there's a scandal going on right now. There's a guy named Mitch Wexler who's doing a lawsuit on, this is a whole nother can of worms, but basically, schools have bonds that you can invest in, and they've been paying for these bonds by issuing new bonds. And so over time, they're rolling up the debt and increasing the interest rate, and they're basically creating a Ponzi scheme.
Bonds Ponzi scheme.
And so what Mitch Wexler found, and they're suing in Texas, and I think they're building cases a whole lot of other places, is that a lot of these schools are going bankrupt. And the way they are keeping from bankruptcy and covering themselves is they're going to the comptrollers and the appraisal district authorities, and they're saying, we need to find this much money in property taxes to cover the schools. And so they're basically pressuring the appraisal districts to commit fraud on the values of the houses so that they're taxed higher to cover these massive debts that are happening with the public schools right now.
That goes into
into so
property
many things.
Taxes and all sorts of things I want to complain about.
But stepping back from that whole giant mess,
education,
that horrifying, who knows what's going to happen there.
K through 12. And the cities and municipalities allow them to do their own private bonds. Is that just for Texas, or does that exist in more states?
I don't know all the details about what their conduct is with under what circumstances they can issue these. The point being that public schools are largely funded through their localities and the property taxes of the surrounding area.
Right. And
it makes sense, kind of, but it's really problematic for a lot of reasons. If you're someone who thinks that there's kind of racist institutions, systemic racist institutions, this would definitely be a cornerstone of that, where, and I would take it more just, are you a poorer demographic? Did you come from a more poor, undereducated community? This kind of lays a concrete foundation for that, where I live in a rough area, rough neighborhood, low education. My parents were low education. So we the houses are of really low value here, and so the property taxes are really low, and so the schools have shit funding, and now not only am I poor and struggling, but my kids have terrible education, and there's no upward mobility, even cross-generationally. And so a lot of, I would say, disproportionately black voters advocate for charter schools where, fine, I pay taxes, right, property taxes, so that my kid can get educated, but I don't want to be assigned to a school. I want a voucher so that I can choose
School
which
choice.
school
Yeah.
my kid's going to, and then there's kind of this preference market system that comes into play, and the better performing schools are going to get more charter vouchers.
Do you agree with that?
I do.
I do too. I don't really see any of the arguments against it.
And it would
That's
be a way
valid.
to make it more fluid and allow for upward mobility in these places where people are kind of locked into poor neighborhoods.
What I do question is private schools getting vouchers as well. That kind of, where do private schools get their money if they don't get it from taxes? That kind of concerns me as far as, whose money is it? Where's the money from? Are they teaching specific ideologies? I've always wondered that. Especially in religious schools, I think that's mostly probably from churches and religions, I would assume.
Yeah.
Or maybe from religious individuals that are part of that religion.
And I don't know, the Friedman fan in me would be like, let the market decide. So it's like, is the school problematic because it's ideological? Maybe in some ways. Well, then why is it getting more vouchers than this more, I don't know, hard-nosed, no-nonsense model that is not performing as well? It's not as desirable.
Yeah, I don't know at the end though, like in our future, because like right now we complain about how Friedman's ideas are misused. Well, once somebody think that wouldn't we be doing the same thing with the education system basically?
Yeah, and if I'm playing devil's advocate, kind of going into the schools, like putting way too much funding into like the nice athletic facilities, it's like you could just have a school that's super fun and like has all this super nice facilities, and it's like that could just become like a black hole of charter vouchers because they're the cool place to go.
Next door, you got like a rusted swing set that doesn't have seats for their swings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? I think it'd be interesting to. I think the important thing is to actually look to better ourselves and look for change. As long as we're doing that in all systems, I think, we'll have something to compare against, like you said before,
And it drives me crazy, the argument of, well, this is the way it is, and so therefore it must be the way to do things.
There's never a way to. There's always improvement that can be done. It's people's fear. People
are uncomfortable with
politicians,
the unfamiliar.
That's how politicians get things done. Is they make whatever side you're on. They use people's fear against them to get things passed. What about now?
Universities.
What about universities?
Yeah. Universities get funding in a lot of different ways. I would say a lot of them are kind of protected against market forces. They get bailed out in a lot of unique avenues. And they are more like that voucher school that wants the shiniest new equipment, the more fun place to be. And so they get grants through federal programs, like we're abiding by these things. We're doing medical research that will have scientific grants. They get endowments through the graduates and some of the more Ivy League schools. You start to get into the legacy system of like, well, this is one of our most generous donors, so of course we're going to allow their kids to get into the school. I don't know how common that is. Certainly an issue in the Ivy schools, and it's kind of degrading their reputation over time, I would argue. But also, the main way I'd say that they get funded is through tuition. And tuition used to be reasonable, and over the past couple generations, it's become like basically inducting people into indentured servitude, where they have these lifelong debt loads that are starting to garnish their retirement funds and Social Security because they have no hope of paying it off. Why are schools getting so expensive? Most people blame the bloated administrative staff in these schools, but I think the real reason is government subsidized loans.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, and this is becoming a problem with the housing, too. Houses are exploding in price because of government subsidized loans. But basically, when you issue a loan to the bank, when a bank issues a loan to you, let's say you want to buy a car, the bank will only get its money back and any interest if you are good to pay off that loan. So the bank is incentivized to scrutinize, well, what is your job? Are you currently working? What other assets do you have? What other debts do you have? And all of these kind of allow them to calculate how likely you are to pay off this loan. How reliable are you? Have you reliably paid off your debts in the past? That's kind of the concept of building credit. And when the government subsidizes loans, they basically guarantee them. They say, I don't even want you to look at Dave's background. Don't worry about it. If he defaults, I'll cover it. And so and how do they cover it? By adding to our national debt, inflating our dollar away, or ideally, it is covered, but by the taxpayer. So now you're kind of socializing the burden of everyone who signs up for college, but can't pay it off either because they took a crappy degree or they dropped out, whatever. And the reason that makes school so it's a burden on the broader society in two different ways. One is any loan that is outstanding now is covered by the taxpayer, and the other way is that it allows tuitions to explode in price. Because let's say you're having an auction and there's this nice painting that goes up for sale. That painting is going to go up for sale at a much lower value than if at the entrance there's a bank there that says, I don't need to look at your income. I don't have to look at whatever. I'll give you whatever loan you want to bid on this painting. And so there's no limit on the demand to enter college because there's no limit on what can actually be paid up front. And these poor kids sign up for these loans as like the first major financial decision they make with their life, not even understanding, hey, it's kind of a bitch to pay off loans, and sometimes I can't, and that really sucks when that happens. And hey, I can't, this is unique to student loans, I can't declare bankruptcy, so no matter what, this is going to follow me around the rest of my life.
The problem I have with that is that there's so many options to pay back your loan. You could pay back if you only make a certain amount and you can prove you can reduce your interest, you can only pay 1% a year or whatever. You can have a hold on your interest. They've got so many options on my hill because I'm still paying off I'm keeping it for my credit,
Sure.
And it's hard to believe, but then I'm coming from a place now where I don't have to worry about food and things of that nature. But it's hard to believe you can't pay $40. I mean, you've seen all the YouTube videos where somebody would be like, I just can't pay anything on my loans. Where that guy, I forget what his name is, but he constantly goes through people's accountant. He's basically does accounting for, and they're like, I can't pay anything. It's
Caleb Hammer, I think.
Yeah, something but he's like, you just went to Disney World for the third time this year with your friends, type of thing. And that's what you see more or less.
Also people who are just royally screwed with how the loans were structured. But you're probably right that there's probably...
I think there are, but I think it's not the majority of the people, probably.
Fair enough. But also, you got the job that you were kind of promised in your industry for pursuing this degree.
Right, as I said, I'm coming from a place where I'm already in. I pursued
so many
a job,
people, it's all right, I took out $80,000 to go to this really nice school, and then, I get out expecting to be, I don't know, a professor, and it's nope, you're working at Subway.
Yeah, and if you treat that like it is property, like your degree is property, like a house or whatever, has there ever been a time when the government has paid loans or, given away money either through grants or basically through loans without checking, where the industry hasn't ballooned. I can't think of a single time in history where the industry hasn't ballooned by, the government getting involved in it. And man, I'm trying to think. Shipping? No, there's shipping. There's oil subsidies, subsidizing. It did do its spot in farm and produce and in cheese. I think we're still doing a cheese. So I can't think of any.
But the consumer isn't taking out a freaking bank loan to cover their, their cheese that is 300 times as expensive as it should be. I mean, they're starting. I don't think they.
No, it's the farmers that actually grow the crops, though.
They're subsidizing.
They're subsidized. Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, you get less and less farmers growing the crops, and then so we subsidize. I think it was corn. Dairy is highly subsidized. That would probably go down if Canada ever Canada's a huge problem with dairy, because Canada has a lot of dairy too, and we could sell them dairy at dirt cheap, because we've got whole
because it's subsidized.
Yeah. Well, because we have so many people producing dairy and not enough. We've got warehouses of like 10-year-old cheese, acres and acres of just like warehouses up north here.
We're back on food again when we're talking about education.
Food's a good thing. Well, no,
food is a good thing.
We're talking about subsidizing.
Yeah.
So it's just good to draw parallels between the two. But
and there is one last kind of major income stream for universities, and that is the athletics. And it's like there's this cynical you want to be a top 10, what is it, the Big 10, you want to be a Big 10 or March Madness type school, where it's there's this kind of sexy sports industry that is I want to attend these games and see these up and coming athletes, and you get these massive state-of-the-art stadiums, and the athletes get bribed with mopeds and iPods. I remember at Madison, and not to call out Madison, but it's everyone on the football team got a moped or something dumb like that.
Yeah,
and it's
big time.
It's all these basically bribes for the athletes that make so much money for the schools, and then they don't get to see any of that, and it's just all and then you get to up the tuition because you're a more attractive school that everyone wants to get into, so they can have fun at these March Madness basketball games. That whole element of our education is pretty embarrassing to me, but
we had we had our tuition go up to build a new stadium when I was there, and and at the time, I played football, so I benefited from it. We had new weight facilities and all sorts of nice stuff, but at the same time, when I quit, it was
this is dumb.
This is dumb. I don't need any of this stuff, because it's the difference in college sports when you transition. There's a transition between when something is completely team and it's team building to when it turns more and more individualistic as time goes on, and you get these and that's kind of why I joined the military instead. Well, it's more you're people get less concerned about how your team does and how you do individually, I should say, probably.
Oh, you're talking about more the cult of personality thing, where it's oh my gosh, this center basketball player.
Well, it's like a wide receiver.
Yeah.
You're probably somebody I shouldn't be talking sports with, James.
Hell no.
No, but it's like a wide receiver. They get, if you look to the NFL, their team might have won, but the wide receiver's I only got passed two or three times this game.
Sure.
I only touched the ball 2 or 3 times or whatever, and everybody gets upset about their stats and I didn't get any yards I didn't get to run with the ball this much this game. I didn't get passed to. Mm-hmm. Or somebody gets taken out, like a quarterback, temporarily for some reason, or baseball, be a pitcher. You give up a run. Is that Mao?
That's a half-hour warning here.
Before she starts yelling at you, I'm gonna keep that in, by the way. She can wear a pantsuit and start telling you to go on a long march
Don't I know it?
to kill sparrows.
Don't come home without any game.